The sky over Eger is already black with smoke when the first Ottoman banners appear on the horizon. Not hundreds, not thousands. An entire moving wall of men, 40,000 soldiers, cannons, janissaries, engineers, veterans of a dozen conquered cities, and inside the fortress, barely 2,000 defenders, not just soldiers, but farmers, craftsmen, priests, women, and children. This is not a battle. This is supposed to be an execution. And yet, the Ottomans will fail. The numbers alone should make this impossible. 40,000 attackers against a garrison that wouldn't even fill a parade square in Istanbul. Siege artillery, powerful enough to flatten cities. Supply lines stretching back to the heart of an empire that has never been stopped. By the end of this story, the Ottoman commanders will retreat in disbelief, and the name Eger will spread through Europe like a warning. But here's the question no history book likes to sit with. How does a fortress this small survive when everything about war says it shouldn't? The myth says courage. The reality is far darker, because this victory is not clean, not noble, not accidental. It is calculated desperation, enforced discipline, and human beings pushed so far past fear that retreat becomes impossible. And it starts long before the first cannon fires. The Ottomans do not come to Eger by chance. In 1552, Hungary is already bleeding out. City after city has fallen. Fortresses collapse in weeks. Commanders surrender to spare their men. Roads that once led to Vienna are now Ottoman highways. Eger is not the largest fortress, not the strongest, not even the most strategically valuable on paper. Which is exactly why the Ottomans expect it to break quickly. They believe speed will do the work for them. So does almost everyone else. Inside the walls, the defenders know the math. They've counted the barrels of grain. They've measured the powder. They've watched refugees arrive with stories of impaled garrisons and erased towns. No relief army is coming. No miracle cavalry over the hills. If Eger falls, northern Hungary collapses with it. If it holds, it buys time no one thinks exists. At the center of this pressure stands a man who is not famous yet. István Dobó. Not a legend, not a conqueror. A fortress captain with one impossible job: delay an empire. Dobó knows something the Ottomans don't. He knows his men are not here because they expect to win. They are here because there is nowhere else to go. Every soldier understands what capture means: slavery, if they're lucky; execution, if they resist. Their families are inside the walls with them. Retreat is not survival. It is death later, slower, and worse. This isn't an army defending a position. It's a community defending its own existence. Outside the walls, Ottoman commanders assemble with confidence bordering on boredom. They've seen sieges like this dozens of times. Cannons breach walls. Assault waves test defenses. Resistance collapses. Banners rise. Eger is supposed to take days, weeks at most. They bring massive artillery, including bombards designed to shatter medieval stone. Engineers ready to dig, undermine, and collapse the walls from below. They bring drums. They bring horns. They bring sound itself as a weapon. Because intimidation has broken cities before a single ladder touches stone. When the first cannon roars, it doesn't just strike the wall. It announces inevitability. Stone explodes outward. Dust fills the air. The walls shake like something alive and wounded. Inside, no one cheers. They count. Every shot matters. Every crack in the wall is a countdown. Day after day, the bombardment continues. Sections crumble. Towers weaken. The Ottomans rotate guns, walking fire along the defenses, searching for panic. They expect screams. They expect chaos. Instead, they see movement. Controlled, disciplined. Repairs made at night. Earth packed behind shattered stone. Defenders sleeping in armor, weapons within reach. Dobo enforces rules with iron resolve. No drinking, no desertion, no panic allowed to spread. He knows fear is more dangerous than cannon fire. And then the Ottomans escalate. They bring the drums closer. They beat them through the night, relentless, rhythmic, designed to deny sleep and remind the defenders how many men wait outside. Torches light the camps in impossible numbers. From the walls, it looks like the ground itself is burning. The Ottomans shout promises, surrender, and live, resist, and die slowly. Inside Eger, the civilians hear every word. This is where most sieges break. Not when walls fall, when morale does. But Eger has something the Ottomans misread. The women do not flee. They carry stones. They boil water. They melt lead. They haul ammunition to the walls while arrows and shot fall around them. Children carry messages. Priests fight with swords. Every person inside becomes part of the defense, because there is no civilian line anymore. There is only inside and outside. And outside is death. The first Ottoman assault comes after days of bombardment. Janissaries advance in formation, disciplined, armored, confident. Ladders rise. Grappling hooks bite into stone. This is the moment the Ottomans expect the defenders to collapse. Instead, they meet a storm. Boiling liquid pours down from above. Stones shatter skulls. Muskets fire at point-blank range. Pikes thrust through gaps as men climb, only to fall back broken. Bodies pile at the base of the walls. The assault fails, not catastrophically, but unexpectedly. Ottoman commanders regroup. They don't panic, they smile, because this is what defenders do before they break. So the cannons resume, harder, closer. And time begins to matter. Inside Eger, supplies shrink. Powder is rationed. Sleep becomes a luxury. Wounds fester. The defenders know the truth even if they don't say it aloud. They cannot withstand this forever, and the Ottomans know it too. They start to wait, confident, patient, certain that exhaustion will finish what cannon fire started, but waiting cuts both ways. And with every failed assault, something subtle begins to change. Not in the walls of Eger, but in the minds of the attackers. Because numbers are supposed to decide this, and they aren't. By the second week, the siege has stopped feeling like a demonstration of power. It feels like resistance. The Ottomans expected fear to do the heavy lifting. Instead, they are paying for every meter of ground with blood. Not catastrophic losses, but enough to be noticed, enough to be counted. And counting is dangerous. Inside the fortress, the situation is getting worse by the hour. Walls are no longer walls. They're patched scars, stone, earth, wood, anything that can absorb impact. Some sections barely stand. Others are held together by belief alone. Food is cut to the minimum required to keep hands steady on weapons. Water is guarded. Powder is measured grain by grain. Dobo walks the walls constantly. Not to inspire, to watch, to see who's shaking, to see who's close to breaking. Anyone spreading fear is silenced immediately. Discipline is no longer a rule. It's survival. The Ottomans changed tactics. If intimidation didn't crack them, exhaustion will. Assaults come at irregular hours, at dawn, at dusk, in the dead of night. Trumpets scream without warning. Drums thunder to pull defenders from half-sleep straight into combat. The goal isn't victory, it's collapse. Men stumble to the walls barely awake, fighting in shadows, striking at shapes. Every defense costs more energy than the last. Some defenders begin to fail, not publicly, quietly. Hands that shake too much to reload. Eyes that stare too long into nothing. Wounds ignored until infection sets in. Still, the line holds, and the Ottomans don't understand why. Their commanders gather and argue. This should already be over. Other fortresses fell faster with stronger walls and more men. So they escalate again. They dig. Ottoman engineers begin tunneling toward the walls, working beneath the earth, silent, patient. The plan is simple: undermine the foundations, collapse entire sections, and pour men through the breach. It's an old tactic, a reliable one. Inside Eger, they feel it before they see it. The ground vibrates in strange patterns. Sounds carry through stone. A deep, unnatural scraping beneath their feet. Dobo knows exactly what it means. And he knows he doesn't have the men to counter it. So he does something desperate. He orders counter tunnels dug with civilians and soldiers working side by side, clawing through soil with whatever tools they have. They listen through the earth, pressing ears to dirt, trying to locate the enemy by sound alone. Sometimes they find them, and when they do, there is no ceremony. The tunnels become killing spaces, pitch black, airless, filled with smoke and screams. Men stab blindly. Dirt collapses. Fire is set underground. Some never come back up. When an Ottoman mine finally detonates, it tears a section of wall open. Dust and stone explode outward. This is it, the breach the Ottomans have been waiting for. Assault horns scream. Janissaries surge forward in waves, confident that numbers will finally decide the matter. Inside Eger, there is no retreat. There is nowhere to go. Dobo orders every reserve to the breach. Women and priests follow. They don't bring banners. They bring weapons. What happens next is not a clean defense. It's chaos compressed into stone. Men fight shoulder to shoulder in rubble so tight they can barely swing swords. Muskets fire once, then become clubs. Spears snap. Hands grab faces. Teeth tear flesh. Bodies fill the breach until they become part of the wall. The Ottomans push. They always push, but they can't move forward fast enough. Every step costs too much. Boiling water crashes down. Burning pitch sticks to armor. Stones rain from above, from the sides, from everywhere. The breach becomes a trap, and slowly, unbelievably, the Ottoman assault stalls. Not because they lack men, but because there is no space left to use them. Hours pass. Then something dangerous happens. The defenders realize they're still standing. The Ottomans realize they're not advancing. Confidence shifts, just slightly, and that's enough. Dobo sees it and makes a decision that should be suicidal. He orders a counterattack. Not a charge, a surge. A sudden, coordinated push outward from the breach. The Ottomans don't expect it. Defenders spill forward, screaming, striking, forcing the attackers back down the rubble slope they just climbed. For the first time, the Ottomans retreat voluntarily. Only a few steps, but it's visible. And visibility matters. The assault collapses. Bodies are dragged away. The breach still exists, but it's filled with the dead. That night, the Ottomans beat their drums louder than ever. They light more fires. They shout more threats. But the sound is different now, sharper, angrier. Inside Eger, the defenders don't celebrate. They count again. Men lost, powder remaining, walls still standing barely. They know the next assault will be worse, and the one after that worse still. But something has changed inside the fortress. The impossible has happened once, and that makes it imaginable again. The next morning, the sun rises over a battlefield that looks like the world has gone mad. The Ottomans, confident after weeks of bombardment, launch yet another massive assault. 40,000 men, shields gleaming, pikes raised, drums pounding like the heartbeat of an unstoppable machine. Inside Eger, Dobo moves like a shadow. Every step calculated, every order measured. He doesn't shout. He whispers, points, gestures. Discipline isn't enforced. It's drilled into the air. One wrong move and the fortress could fall. One hesitation, and every soul inside dies. The first wave reaches the walls. Ladders rise. Soldiers swarm. And then, it happens. A single decision, one small but critical miscalculation by an Ottoman officer. A ladder is placed on a weak section of wall. The soldiers climb, confident. Too confident. The defenders have been waiting. Every muscle, every weapon, every drop of rage is focused on this point. Boiling water splashes. Stones crash. Muskets flash. And then men fall, one by one. Climbing becomes a death sentence. The Ottoman assault stalls in mere meters of stone. Chaos spreads, not just among the attackers. Inside Eger, the defenders surge. They push, strike, and drive the Ottomans back. Numbers should dictate victory, but here they do not. Discipline, timing, and sheer human will tip the scales. Outside the walls, commanders shout. They throw fresh troops forward. Cavalry waits to exploit the breach. Engineers scramble to repair ladders, but every move meets resistance. The breach becomes a battlefield inside a battlefield. Men fight so close that swords cross in tangled shadows. Pike meets musket, body meets wall, blood mixes with dust. And then, the turning point, the violent reversal. Dobo orders a sortie. Not just a defensive push, but an attack beyond the walls. It is audacious, it is unexpected, and it is terrifying. Civilians and soldiers spill into the Ottoman lines. They move like one organism. They strike with precision. They collapse enemy formations. Commanders are cut down, officers fall, and panic begins to ripple. For the first time, numbers stop making sense. 40,000 men are held at bay by 2,000. The walls are no longer enough. The Ottomans are retreating through rubble they once dominated. Inside the fortress, defenders are bloodied, exhausted, and barely standing. Yet every man, woman, and child pushes forward. Every swing, every drop of oil, every stone hurled counts. Human will outweigh training. Determination outweighs artillery. By nightfall, the assault is over. The Ottomans retreat to regroup. Casualties are shocking, not on the side of Eger, but on the side of the attackers. Thousands lie dead or wounded. Commanders cannot believe what has happened. Inside the fortress, there is no celebration, only the grim counting of the dead, the tending of wounds, the constant repair of walls battered yet still standing. And the strategic consequences are immediate. Eger survives. Northern Hungary breathes a momentary sigh of relief. News of the defense spreads like wildfire. The Ottoman aura of invincibility cracks. Fortresses begin to resist elsewhere, emboldened by what should have been impossible. Dobo looks out over the walls. He knows this victory is temporary. The siege will continue. The empire will return. But he also knows something else. Discipline, timing, human will. These are weapons no army can fully prepare for. The impossible has happened once. And that changes everything. The next assault comes with a vengeance. The Ottomans regroup, furious, convinced that sheer weight of numbers will finally crush the fortress. 40,000 men, battle-hardened and relentless, prepare to storm walls that have already resisted everything. Inside Eger, the defenders are bone-tired, covered in grime, blood, and sweat. Injuries line the walls. Some men cannot lift their arms. Some civilians cannot lift their spirits, but Dobo moves among them calm, eyes scanning, voice steady. He doesn't promise victory. He promises only one thing: survival for the moment. The assault begins. Cannons roar. Arrows darken the sky. Siege towers roll forward. The earth shakes, and yet the defenders hold. It is not luck. It is calculation. Every shot is returned. Every stone thrown finds its mark. Every drop of oil and lead strikes with precision. Then comes the moment history remembers. The Ottomans attempt to breach the main gate. Engineers and janissaries push forward. They think this is the decisive moment. Dobo signals a small detachment hidden behind rubble and scaffolding. In a sudden, brutal move, they pour through a side exit, striking the attackers in the flank. Panic erupts. Shouts collide with screams. Soldiers trip over bodies. Ladders collapse under weight. Cannons are abandoned. Numbers no longer matter. Chaos reigns. Inside the fortress, defenders surge outward, pushing the attackers back, turning what should have been defeat into an unstoppable counterattack. Each step forward is measured. Each strike is lethal. Walls, towers, rubble, they all become weapons. By the end of the day, the Ottomans are broken. Not just physically, but mentally. Commanders cannot fathom what they are witnessing. 40,000 men, beaten, humiliated, and forced to retreat. Casualty counts are staggering. Thousands of Ottoman soldiers lie dead. Corpses clog the approaches. The survivors carry the shame back to the camps. Inside Eger, losses are lighter but no less felt. Every family mourns. Every defender knows that tomorrow could bring another wave. Yet hope is alive, and hope in war is a dangerous weapon. The siege eventually ends not in a massive battle, but in a grudging withdrawal. The Ottomans leave, battered and bewildered, unable to take what should have been theirs. Eger stands. Against impossible odds, against overwhelming force, against expectation itself. And the legacy is immediate and far-reaching. Northern Hungary holds, Europe watches. The myth of Ottoman invincibility cracks. Eger becomes a symbol, not of glory, not of heroism in the romantic sense, but of discipline, timing, and the unbreakable human will. Dobo survives, battered and exhausted. His men survive, battered and scarred. Civilians survive, traumatized yet resolute. And the final truth remains. Victory here was never about numbers. It was about courage, measured in seconds, decisions made in desperation, and the relentless refusal to surrender when everything says you must. The numbers that once seemed insurmountable, the 40,000, the cannons, the walls that should have fallen, are reduced to memory. Eger survives,